The world is now focused here. It becomes a fate-defier's legend. The legend of the West. Amidst the storm, who will be the last man standing? Don't attempt to predict. Judge it live. The 2013 Champions League and the Europa League only on GBS.
How well can you define love? And have you ever been in love? And at some point, have you ever tried or wished that someone could listen to you as you talk to them freely concerning matters of the heart? Let me ask you a simple question. What happens in the case that you really want to talk to someone concerning matters of the heart and that particular person is nowhere to be found? No need to worry, that's why Chariot of Love is always here for you. Catch me every Sunday from 9:30 till 10:30 p.m. with me, your love doctor, Bran Ogana.
Domestic violence, a cliche in our society.
I couldn't believe a man I trusted so much, a man I loved so much, would even think of hitting me. Because the only thing I can remember asking was, do you really know it's me? Can't you see it's me? Why are you hitting me? It's me. I just couldn't understand.
For couples who are resolving or rather resulting into fighting, they basically make things worse.
Plus, infidelity in the same matter.
I just felt the house was dirty and all of a sudden I felt very low. I didn't even know why. I'm very sure they engaged in sex. He brought the woman home. He had told her he lived there alone.
And these behavioral practices, for example, we have one which is called IBAN. We have another one like what you've seen.
Bold enough to disclose her status.
Had only been with one man my entire life. I had not been exposed anywhere else. I hadn't even cheated on him in any way. So I knew nothing was going to be wrong. And I walked majestically to the VCT. But then when the results came out and I was HIV positive.
So now they're angry. Angry with the person who infected them, angry with themselves for allowing themselves to get infected.
Gone are the days when living with the HIV virus was considered a death sentence. However, today, with proper medication, openness among those who have the virus, and therapy, one can lead a normal life. You can even have a family, bear children, and enjoy life just like any other person. However, it is a big shame that in our society today, we still have those people who stigmatize people living with the virus. Hello and welcome to Family Matters, a program designed to look into unsolved problems affecting families. I am your host, Timothy. At only 22 years of age, she has passed through thick and thin, alluding infidelity and physical abuse by her former husband. But despite her woes, she has decided to fight on and use her life as an example to the next generation. A self-confessed HIV-positive model. Here is the story of Lucy Wanjiku.
My name is Lucy Wanjiku. I'm 22 years old. I work with National Organization of Peer Educators as a trainer of trainers, a mentor, and also a speaker. I also work with HIVOS as a youth outreach mobilizer. Generally, my work is just with the youths, talking with them on issues relating sexual reproductive health. I'm the firstborn in a family of 3. Growing up, I grew up as my mom came with me into her marriage, so I'm the stepchild in our family. I was in high school in Form 3. That's when I met a man. We were living in Dandora then. He was a neighbor, and when we met, we became friends since we had the same aspirations in life. The goals we had were the same. I wanted to become a nun, he wanted to become a priest. And automatically with that, we just clicked and became good friends. He was the one person whom gave time of his life to listen to me, to listen to my whining, to my complaints, and never gotten that. And I always had to be this, to act like this adult person who didn't have emotions, who didn't have feelings, who couldn't get hurt. So with him I could pour all that, and it really made us bond in a short period of time. We met in 2009, around June. By December in 2009, it was more than just friendship. We started engaging in unprotected sex. Mind you, we had forgotten where our ambitions were heading to. So thereon I had to give up that dream of becoming a nun. I mean, I'd lost my virginity, which was the first criteria, chastity, for you to become a nun. So I gave that up. And now since I'd given that up, I mean, in 2010 I was joining Form 4. I had to have something to go on with life with. So with that encouragement that he gave me, with that surge he brought out in me and made me feel very beautiful, told me those words that I wanted to hear for so long, words like I love you. Those are words that might seem not so good, but these are the words that people long to hear, and it doesn't matter who you are. You want to be told you're loved, you want to be told you're beautiful, you want to be told you have a good physique, and that is what I got from him, and that brought so much out of me. I joined 2 beauty contests, and that is Miss Dimes, it is in Dandora, sort of the Miss Dandora beauty pageant, and also and won. I won in 2010. I also joined Miss Coach same year, and also won. The same year, I was doing my KCSE. They had incentives, what was in there for the person who won. And with Miss Dimes, I was going to get a scholarship to go to college, and with Miss Coach, I was going to get a job right after finishing Form 4. Even before I could claim my prizes, I woke up, it was World AIDS Day, and we were going for a walk. I mean, as an ambassador for Korogosho and Dandora, I had to do something for the community. So I was with them in this walk, and then I started getting all sick. And I just knew, even before I could go and get tested, that I was pregnant. So here I was, everyone expecting so much from me, my parents, my friends, the community, the people who had given me that opportunity were all expecting so much from me, and there I went and became pregnant. It was such a big disappointment, not only for them but for me as well. My boyfriend, mind you, wanted to join the seminary, so that meant he didn't have a job, or he didn't have a place to live. He used to live with his brother, so that meant I had nowhere to go. But somewhere along the way, he found money and rented a house. He rented a house in Dandora Phase 4. It was like a very tiny house, very without the social amenities that I was used to at home. Didn't have electricity. We didn't have access to water the way we wanted, the way I was used to. And it was in the worst conditions that I could have ever thought of living in. I had to get married because my dad would not hear anything of that. He had warned me of getting into this relationship, but I didn't listen to him. So I had to leave. I had to go and get married. Got married at 19. Gave birth to my son in June 29, 2011.
Often when we get into any kind of a relationship, whether marriage or just a cordial relationship, we always hope for the best. And as put by many, a fairy tale end. But if this saying is anything to go by, Lucy can easily attest to it, that life is indeed not a fairy tale, as she was just about to experience in her marriage.
In January 2012, my son started getting really sick. He used to cough and have this, it wasn't warm enough, something like that, and I felt they would all go away. But in January, it got worse. to a point where I had to take him to different hospitals, trying to get what was going on, why was he getting sick all the time. One of those fine days, we were just with my friends and we decided to go to an open health day where they were doing cervical cancer screening. And I mean, it was just a random checkup. You didn't know you needed it, just went because people were going. And you did go, and the cervical cancer screening came out negative. But at the same time, I had to do a HIV test, and had only been with one man my entire life. I had not been exposed anywhere else. I hadn't even cheated on him in any way, so I knew nothing was going to be wrong. And I walked majestically to the VCT and had the counselor tell me all those things. So what would happen if you were tested and you became positive? You just tell him the usual, because you know that's what he wants to hear. I'll seek medication, I'll eat well. That's what he wants to hear. But then when the results came out and I was HIV positive, I thought the counselor was somehow wrong, or the test kits were wrong. We had to redo it 3 times, and over again it came out positive.
When you are being told that you are HIV positive, the first thing which happened in your life, you loses hope. Then how can you gain this hope when you will have faith? Then how will you receive faith? When you can listen to the word of God. Then in the word of God, what makes you to have faith in it? Because in that word there is some promise. So when you can listen to those promises, then from there you can have hope, because you can now rely on those promises. You cannot rely on what you are facing. Okay. But people, they lose hope, and people, they die because there is no hope in them. That's the reason why you can see that people, they commit suicide. And when you find out those who are committing suicide, it is not a matter of that they are HIV positive. Even those who are HIV positive, when they can retain God in their heart, when they can remember God, then you can see that these people, when they get hope, life continues the way other people, they live normal life.
I was very confused. I wasn't angry, I was just confused. I mean, how, where, and when? I had gone testing when I was pregnant and was negative. So how, where along the way had it all come that I was now positive? And did that mean that my son was so sick because of me? I was in this state of confusion with these mixed feelings. I didn't know if I was supposed to be angry, if I was supposed to cry, if I was supposed now to be even stronger than I used to be for my son. So we left, and I promised the counselor I would seek medical attention.
She must have begun with denial, where many people get stuck for a long time. And the denial element comes in because nobody expects that they could be victims of contracting HIV. And then she must have gone through another stage of probably even trying to bargain, probably even seeking people who could pray for her, expecting that God would come in and give her a miracle, just bargaining with God that, oh God, please heal me and I'll never repeat 1, 2, 3, or I'll be a good person. She must have also gone through the stage of anger and depression and self-hate and everything. And now she must have gotten to a point where by now she has accepted that this is what is happening. And she must also have gone through probably several trainings, activation seminars, the ones that people are given when they go for checkups and everything. She must have reached a point where now she's like, it is here with me and I am not dying tomorrow, so why don't I just continue with my life? It is like telling the condition, you are now in my past. I am moving on with my life. With or without the awareness, I am moving on with my life. And she has refused to be reduced to a victim. Once you have gone past the level of being so overconscious of yourself, it doesn't matter anymore who says what or who doesn't say. So, because at the end of the day, you have accepted it. So whether people talk, or they don't, it doesn't matter. So I would say she's safe. She's safe. The worst that could have happened was to contract the virus, and it has already happened. So the best thing that can happen now for her is just to move on. So she's completely safe.
If my partner is affected, or me if I'm affected, surely it is hard. Me, I don't know whether I can tell somebody, but I can tell my husband, but I don't see the reason of telling other people. You see? I tell my husband, and then I take the measures to protect him, the other people, not to, but not to tell the public, because they don't help me.
If you disclose, it depends if a person really takes it. Some will take it like, you say, maybe I cannot die alone. Some will like be, okay, I have it, I have to take care, and take care of my children if you have children. If you are a bachelor, somebody maybe will want to revenge,
Disclosing, and maybe you also need to be safe before you disclose it to anybody, because we also don't want you to be stigmatized. But if someone loves you and you love them back, I think it's a good way to tell them the truth other than killing them.
If you knew that someone was positive, then you would take precautions, because if you go have relations with someone and they end up being positive, then you get the disease because you didn't know that they were positive also.
Sharing your HIV status with those you trust, such as family members, friends, and relatives, can help with the stress and stigma often related to persons living with HIV, and can actually improve your overall health. At the beginning, it was not easy for Lucy to disclose her status to her family members, as she feared rejection.
Now people take ARVs and they eat healthy and they exercise, so I think people know how to maintain themselves now, so it's impossible to tell whether they have HIV or not.
Unless they tell me, it's impossible to know.
With the ARVs and other drugs, many people look healthy, yet they are so sick. So you cannot just identify from the general public and say that this one is sick, this one is not. No.
Suspicion is kind of an aspect of human mind, so to say, and there are efforts or situations where we really find people thinking that you can really determine whether somebody is HIV positive by how they look. But for sure, this is really not the case. In the field, more so in Nyanza, that is Suba and Migori, where we've had this wide-scale home-based testing and counseling, we come across that. Our staff come across such situations. And as we do mobilization, even for radio, these are some of the things we try to demystify. In terms of knowledge of HIV status, is not to be suspicious. And for instance, if you suspect, then walk into a counseling and testing center and then get to know for sure, rather than remaining in that particular suspicion.
I told my boyfriend that evening. I went looking for him. Even though he wasn't there for us, I went looking for him just to tell him what had happened. He never reacted like, oh, you have infected me or anything. He reacted like, oh, so you have known. You see, it's like all this time he knew, but he didn't think I would know then and then. So I told him I wanted us to seek medical attention for my son, also not for me but for my son. So the promised day we had to meet and go to clinic. He never showed up, and 2 weeks later I lost my son. That night I remember just looking at my son and just wondering, now what? Now where do I start? How do I do this? How did it come by? I had so much that I wanted to tell someone, but I didn't have that someone to tell. The first person I told was my boyfriend, and he was the only person I told. I felt my new family would feel I was more of a burden than I already was, so I never told them. And then from my past life, my parents had always felt I was this person who kept getting into mistakes, and now I didn't want to prove them right, so I wouldn't even go and tell them. They would be the last people that I thought of telling. It was on a Sunday when I disclosed to them. I told them that I had been living with HIV for the past year. I realized my status in January and told them in September. So I told them this is what has happened, and since I had stopped breastfeeding my son and no one knew why I had stopped, everyone thought I was pregnant, including them. So I told them now that was the reason that I even stopped breastfeeding my son, and they were very shocked. I remember my dad asked for a glass of water and my mom just left the house. And up to date, that has never been discussed. We have never sat somewhere as a family and discussed it. It's just an issue that is brushed away, but the treatment is still the same. I don't feel outlined in any way.
In most of the communities or in most families, HIV and AIDS is still being considered as a disease that is related to infidelity in a way. So that makes the people generally really see that if somebody who is a member of their family is found to be HIV positive, it's like they were involved in some kind of infidelity. And that then already begins to create stigma around it. As such, then people have a tendency then not to want to identify with this person. Or if they do, it is at a later stage, so to say. And it is around that then that we're really thinking of in terms of how can we then improve that by bringing on board different kind of interventions designed to address such an issue. Family support still stands as a main thing. And that is why we are really encouraging couple counseling and testing, and then disclosure to the family members and disclosure to sexual partners if they do not know. In which case we have two perspectives. When you disclose to the sexual partners, you're really trying to prevent transmission to other partners who probably don't have the disease or reinfection of the individual who already has this. And disclosure to other family members so that you can get their support when you finally get to enroll into care and treatment. They're able to remind you so that you adhere to medication, which is really key or very important moving forward once you've known your status.
Self-disclosure is quite a great move, and for me it's a state of 1, maturity, 2, a state of concern, 3, it's a state of love. So if I have the ability to disclose my status to my partner, one of the things I'm trying to do is protect the person I love. 2, I am trying to avoid reinfection. For me, the issue of spreading the virus has to do with our values and also an aspect of discipline, because I believe if I care for that other person, I would not have the mindset of wanting to spread the virus. Instead, I would want them to know exactly what is my status, and apart from that, be able to take good care of them.
My mom is there. I can say she has always been a supporting rock for me. Or when life was really hard, she came through for me when I thought she wouldn't, but she did. My dad, I have this deep respect for him, because in order for a man to take care of a child that is not his and take care of him the best way he knew how, that shows he's a great person, and I have this deep respect for him.
While Wanjiko was trying to come to terms with her new life, not to mention the loss of a son, and as if that was not enough, she was dealt another blow in her relationship: infidelity. Infidelity can quickly lead to violence, since it's a highly volatile situation where people's emotions are involved.
After, I guess, 2 weeks, he brought home a woman. The same bed we slept on, he brought home a woman. I mean, that was it. I couldn't take more than that. I'm very sure they engaged in sex, because most of my stuff, like clothes and shoes, was somewhere in a corner, all stuffed up. So the house looked manly. I mean, those were the signs that showed he did something. He had lost all respect he had for me. This was the worst thing he could ever do. I had gone through so much with him. I mean, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I knew I deserved better. I deserved a better partner. But since I loved him, I stayed. I stayed and I took everything he did to me, everything he said to me. But here he couldn't even respect me enough that he brought home a woman. And we reconciled after all that. The owner of the building felt that this was our new marriage and we had issues we need to sort, and this was part of marriage, so I should take it all in. 3 months down the line, I lost my job. So my boyfriend, I was the one who was catering for everything in the house. I paid the rent, I bought food, but now since I didn't have a job, I couldn't provide. And now here we are again in debt. And I think the pressure he got, he had to take it out on me. And one day I'm coming home and he started calling me a prostitute. And I didn't even know why he was calling me that. And before I knew it, he was beating me up.
Dialogue and seeking counsel basically is what solves issues. So for couples who are resolving or rather resulting into fighting, they basically make things worse. And the reason is because these are two grown-up people. Each of them has an independent mind, and they came together when they were all mature. They grew up in different environments. They have different values, and the kind of virtues that they uphold are also different. So give your spouse room. Let them express themselves as far as that issue is concerned. Their reasoning might be different, but listen to their opinion. And then if you cannot agree, because some of the issues might require a third person, then look for a professional. Don't just call a friend, because a friend would come and listen to the viewpoint of the friend who invited them.
It happened that there was someone who had sent a text. He had my phone. Someone had sent a text that he didn't like. And before I could even finish laughing, I was slapped. Got a really hard slap that made me wonder, was he sure who he was hitting? When I went to speak, he hit me again. So I got really angry and started throwing insults at him. And he took a belt and really hit me with that belt that I had to call for neighbors. In that fracas, I had beat my lower lip, so I was even bleeding. And that was a shock since there was blood, and here I was crying.
We've been brought up in a society whereby ladies and young girls are told if a man does not beat you up, then they do not love you. That's not the case for me. I believe in sitting down in a sober mood and being able to communicate my feelings in a sensitive way so that we may be able to solve any conflict that we have amongst us. So in the case whereby you have a spouse or a partner who is temperamental or has anger issues and is irritating at some point, the best way to handle that is for you to be able first to relax. Then after you're sober enough, you can be able to sit, initiate dialogue, and communicate your feelings in a sensitive way so that you can be able to resolve the conflicts.
I couldn't believe a man I trusted so much, a man I loved so much, would even think of hitting me. Because the only thing I can remember asking was, do you really know it's me? Can't you see it's me? Why are you hitting me? It's me. I just couldn't understand. I felt that was too much. I had gotten it up to there. That was just it. I couldn't take any more of that. And now this was my life and I was going to do it on my own. Whether I was going to make it or not, I vowed to do it on my own. So that was the end of us. He's still there. He still calls. Yes, he still calls. I used to get really angry at the beginning of this year, but now I just listen. He just calls and I just listen. I feel I'm past that. I've already forgiven him. And though he was stupid enough not to see that I really loved him, that I would do anything for him, it is his loss. It is not mine. Since him calling or coming to my hotel and trying to be a bag, trying to pester me, it doesn't affect me. because I'm already past that.
Well, self-acceptance involves being realistic and getting to know your strengths and your weaknesses. For Lucy, she's now giving the best. Well, viewer, this is only possible with self-acceptance.
My looks have nothing to do with who I am now. I've never been that person who treasures beauty and thinks you can get things just because you're beautiful. I work hard for what I want. I've worked hard to be where I am now. For me to be able to even speak in front of people is not easy. And let's say I look at myself and think this is God. All this strength that I have is not mine. I mean, I didn't just wake up and think, now I can do this. I can go public with this. I can speak to people. That strength had to come from somewhere, and I believe it's God. And from that moment, I realized that my story could indeed change someone else's life. That was the day that I started living. After I found my purpose was to use what God had given me. I mean, it didn't happen with him not seeing. He saw all this. And if he let it in, he knows why. And so far, I can't complain. I've talked to so many students. I've talked to so many pupils. And once I finish talking and they ask questions and they give comments and they don't talk like this is the worst thing that you could ever do to us, you could ever tell us. They're like, now you have become my role model. Now you have given me motivation. Now I want to take care of myself. That is what keeps me going. That is what makes me wake up in the morning and think, this is the best day ever. And I couldn't be in a better position than where I am now.
If you're not ready for the consequences, please do not do it. I always say, and I will keep on insisting, young people outside there, sex has no expiry date. You can wait. We've never heard of instances where someone has died because of lack of having sex. So all these interesting myths and misconceptions that young people have regarding issues of sex, I don't know, if you stay without having sex for quite a long time, you will grow cobwebs. It really doesn't count. No one has died for lack of having sex. If you can, stay, and that is the best. Let us not learn out of our own experiences. Other people's experiences are enough lessons for us to be taught.
Everyone is sick and everyone is dying. Just only he can believe like this. The life that he has, it is just but temporary. Because this sickness, HIV, it does not even touch his soul. Just only it is upon this body. Is it? Just only this, actually, when he can see God in every situation, he cannot get worried. That's what I can say to them. But people, they get worried because of what? Because they don't believe in God.
If you realize your partner is HIV positive, or if you realize your status, I mean, if you realize today you're HIV positive, it is only kind. It is only the most humanly thing you can do by telling your partner. Just tell your partner. Because if my partner told me, that didn't mean that I would have left him. I would actually have been there for him more and would have prevented maybe even losing my son. So if you realize your status today, even go testing with your partner, because you'll be there for each other.
You need the counselors to counsel you so that you gain your confidence back. Because most of us, even when you are suffering from HIV or any other disease which is serious like cancer, which is also serious like HIV, sometimes you die because of lack of, because you feel lonely, But when you are counseled, you are counseled, you mix with the people, you are appreciated by people. You see, you feel liked. You see, we all like to be loved. You see, we all like to be loved.
Take precautions. If you are not married, if you are single, if you have to, contraceptives. Married people, stay to your partner.
To the victims, I will actually do what? Beg them that they don't spread. To the general public, let us play safe. The surest way, let us go for testing so that we know our status, because If we don't know our status, we always live in doubt.
Well, if you have it, it changes your life completely. You have to turn over a new leaf. You have to think about your life and plan for your future. So for those who have it, it might be a bad thing that they know that they have the disease, but for them, they can turn into a positive and build themselves a future. Because now now they know how things go. Now they can plan for their lives. They won't make the same mistakes again.
In the era that we are living now, we have care and treatment services that are really beneficial to people who are living with HIV/AIDS. But it starts with getting to know your status. And if you're a couple, do couple counseling and testing so that you know your status as a couple. Then make efforts then to support each other as you go through the process.
If you get tested today and find you're HIV positive, that doesn't mean you're finished. It only means it's the beginning of a life for you to take care of yourself. Accept yourself and move on. It won't go away, and even you ignoring it doesn't mean it will go away. So accept yourself and live life as it comes. It is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
As we come to the end of our program, viewer, it is a hopeful thing to understand that there are people who have the virus yet lead a very positive life in society, in changing the lives of many people and caring about the generations to come. Well, one thing we'd like to ask you as a general public is that those people living with the virus are just people like us, and that embracing them and living together with them in harmony would make our life a better place to live in. We'd like to thank you very much, and we'd like to thank Lucy also for the work that she's doing to bring up a hopeful and youthful generation to come. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us on Family Matters. I've been your host, Timothy Omondi.